Hi there, I'm Gary. I'm an ordinary bloke doing stuff. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today we're stepping back in time. We're stepping back 60 years in time to a kit that's as old as I am. And look, I'm grey. This is the Joseph Stalin JS-3 tank in 1/76th scale that has just been re-released by Airfix. It arrived on my doorstep this morning. I'm going to start cracking on with it today. It will be interesting to see how this compares with the more modern kits, say the Sherman and the Tiger that I've already made. You can check out those videos as well on my channel. I'll have a quick look at the history of the JS3, or the IS-3 as it's more commonly known. I will see what you get in the box, what the 60s are giving you for your money, and then I'll show you how to put it all together. Now, all these different bits come as chapters in the video, so you can hop backwards and forwards as you desire. Okay, so let's make a start. The JS-3, more commonly known as the IS-3, was the last Soviet heavy tank to reach production during World War II. IS were the initials of the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin, which we've anglicised to JS. Its genesis was in the search for a successor to the KV series of heavy tank. Whilst these had been successful against the 75mm guns of the Panzer IV, the KVs were outgunned with the arrival of the 88mm Pak 43. This was the main armament of the formidable Tiger, the more manoeuvrable yet still very powerful Panther, and the dedicated Jagdpanther tank killer. The Soviet response was to mount an adapted 1939M 85mm anti-aircraft gun to a KV-1 tank chassis. The result was the KV-85. This was soon followed by the IS-85, with the same gun but adapted for the lighter KV-13 tank chassis. By the end of 1943, an even more powerful gun was needed. The 122mm AS-19 core gun had proved itself a strong anti-tank weapon, so it was fitted to an adapted IS-85. The resulting vehicle became known as the IS-122, later shortened to the IS-2. In testing, its gun proved devastating to German armour and gave the Soviets an edge in effective range on the battlefield. Firing high explosive rounds, the IS-2 became the Soviets' breakthrough armour, punching holes in enemy defensive positions all along the road to Berlin. Continued ideas for improvement led to Object 703, soon christened the IS-3. The new tank had a turret of spherical section with improved resistance to impact, which became a feature of all post-war Soviet heavy tanks, such as the T-62. The front glacis plate on the IS-3 employed a compound slope that gave it an appearance dubbed by its crews as the pike nose, while the broad tracks enabled it to traverse the most difficult terrain, such as snow. The IS-3 came too late in the war to reach combat, although it did take part in the Berlin Victory Parade in 1945. Subsequently, the IS-3 saw service on the Chinese-Soviet border, in the invasion of Hungary in 1956, and in the Arab-Israeli Six-Day War in 1967. The tooling for this kit dates to its release in 1962, when it was listed as an HO00 railway scale. The kit soon acquired its classic Roycross box art, although different art was seen on the US releases in 1964 and 67. Airfix stuck with the original Roycross until this expanded version appeared in 1976. Different box art and decals were used in 2011, when the kit was finally given as a 1/76 scale, but for the 2022 Vintage Classics release, Airfix has gone back to Roycross's original. The current kit is listed at skill level 2, possibly because of the tracks and the wheels, and it comes with a token for 1 flying hour. You can collect these as a member of the Airfix Club towards a free kit in the future, or you can donate them to Models for Heroes. A link to this excellent charity is in the information box below. Right, so let's have a look at what we get inside this box. Classic artwork, of course, on the front. I mean, I even remember that from like the late 60s myself. Inside we have possibly the smallest decal sheet I've ever seen. There are 4 decals here, all red stars inside white circles. We have the instructions, which are also pretty minimalist in that they come on 1 page. Okay, not going to be that hard to follow these. And then we have the parts of the kit itself. Now, we have a lot of wheels, right? Lots and lots and lots of wheels. There are these really nasty feeling rubber tracks that we've got to get together. They're not actually rubber, they're some sort of molded plastic, but they fit together and they have to be heat sealed together somehow. We'll have a look at how we do that. Other than that, the parts are they're okay. They're not too badly molded. They're reasonably clean. Very simple. It really shouldn't be that difficult a build apart from putting all of these wheels together. As usual, I've given everything a gentle wash and I've applied a quick coat of primer. The first thing to do is to start on the main road wheels of the tank. There are 6 on each side, and each of these is made from 2 halves. Just slip 1 half onto the stub axle from each suspension arm, then add the outer half on top with just a little dab of glue. Then these small return wheels go in along the top in the same manner. The idler wheels sit at the front again, each is in 2 halves, but these go together onto a peg which then attaches to the hull piece. And it's the same method for the sprocket drive at the rear of the tracks. Now, I would strongly recommend fitting the tracks now, as they are a proper pain to slide in under the top cover later. Ignore the instructions, do them now. Of course I didn't, so I'm happily sailing along by fitting the 2 hull sides to the top plate. They do sit very well in place. Then I can add the bottom plate of the hull, again that fits very nicely, before adding the rear cover. This just needs a little bit of a push to make it sit absolutely right. And in effect, that's the whole structure complete. There's the driver's hatch to fit in the closed position. It goes on the top of the glacis plate like so. Now, at the back of the tank are 4 fuel drums that sit on the edge on either side of the engine cover. And that is the bottom half of the tank complete, of course, apart from the pesky tracks. On then to the turret. First of all, I'm fitting the gun mounting. This gets pushed in from behind. It's a little tight, but it's okay. Then the mantlet can be glued on the front, but just use tiny dabs of glue so it doesn't stop the barrel elevating. And I'll let that dry for a moment. In the meantime, there are 2 crew hatches that go on the top. I guess you could have these open if you had figures poking out. Next, the gun barrel, and you'll see that the muzzle brake slots are only on one side of the moulding, and there isn't anywhere for the shells to come out. But I guess you could drill these out if you really wanted to. The barrel goes in with the alignment tab at the top. Now, with the turret sitting on the hull for the moment, the tank is beginning to look pretty good. Next, those pesky tracks. First of all, I've cut them into single pieces and trimmed them. Then I've looped one end round to fit on the other end and held those in place with a clamp. You could use anything like a clothes peg or a small bulldog clip, that kind of thing. Then I'm going to very gently brush them with a small soldering iron. You can use anything that's hot, a heated needle or a pin, anything like that, but please do watch yourself. I'll do the joint on both sides, just kind of mixing the plastic together. Whilst those are setting nice and solid, I'll give the hull and the turret some colour. For the first coat I'm using a thinned BS dark green, but I thought that was a bit too bright, so for the second coat I've added some dark olive drab, 50-50. And now, the reason why you should have fitted the tracks earlier. Trying to get them over the sprocket drives under this top plate, what a pain this is. It took me ages. Once it is done, you can pull the track over the rest of the wheels. Try to tension the bottom so it sits reasonably flat. I've then used a tiny spot of ultra thin glue to bond the track to the road wheels. When they're set, I'm painting the tracks with some burnt iron paint. I think it looks better as steel than gunmetal does. Then I'm going to add a liberal coat of slightly diluted model wash all over. It looks quite heavy to begin with, but I think it just dulls down the surface nicely to a kind of Soviet feel, if you know what I mean, and also highlights the mouldings a little bit. These days, of course, the mouldings are so much more prominent, but remember, this is a 60-year-old kit. When that has dried, I'll add the decals. The positions are shown on the back of the box. The decal to the front of the glacis plate and those on either side of the turret are easy enough. The difficult one is this one that sits on this plate at the top of the turret, as there are a couple of big bolts sticking up out of the top. I'm using plenty of setting solution and gently pushing it into place. Eventually it will sit right. There is the 12.7mm machine gun for the top of the turret, and I'm going to pick out the barrel support on the back with a spot of paint, both of these done in the same burnt iron colour. Then I'll add some mud texture to the body and I'm finished. Do you know what, I'm fairly pleased with it. It probably could have been a little bit better if I'd have taken more time, but I wanted to recreate the excitement of building this tank I had 50 years ago. Most importantly, it was fun and I'm happy. Remember, if you've enjoyed this video too, then please subscribe to my channel where you'll find all kinds of projects along with new things when I add them. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.